training sessions were 3-4 hours long. It was just like a rabbit in a headlight for them. I felt so sorry for them. They got just everything they did, it was just wrong. They kept getting everything wrong. Trainings were too long at a time. Players were getting injured. No days off. Again, when you come into a new environment like that, you can't just switch everything over. You got to do it gradually. He didn't really speak to the players, to be honest, and I don't feel like he was there I think he was just there just to be there, kind of thing. He wasn't. He didn't really get involved as much. There was a few signings that he made that he didn't really know too much about, to be honest. I kind of got a wind of that, and I was thinking, this is going to be a big, massive circus, really.
Clayton Donaldson is a professional football manager, currently playing as a striker for Farsley Celtic, where he also serves as a manager. He had a playing career in the English Football League, as well as Scottish Premier League, for clubs such as Hull City, Hibernian, Brentford, Birmingham City, Sheffield United, Bradford City, and internationally for Jamaica. Donaldson joined Birmingham City in 2014 after a stint at Brentford, quickly establishing himself as a key player and a well-known forward in the English Championship. In his first season, he scored 16 goals in all competitions and earned the Players' Player and Supporters' Player of the Season awards. He continued to be a vital player until his departure to other clubs in 2017. Now, he's on the Mindset for Sport podcast, speaking with Christy Scanlon to discuss his football journey, the mindset needed for success, and what it takes to become a professional footballer. Let's start at the beginning of your journey then. Growing up in Hull, Bradford and that Yorkshire area, how did football become a passion for you at a young age?
Just with my brothers, really, and friends. I got an older brother as well who loved football as well, so he used to just go out and always play, and I used to always follow him and trying to play and keep up with the big boys. Really, all the kids were a lot older than me, so it's just from that he kind of brought me into it, really, and I used to always try to follow him everywhere and trying to get involved. I was always the youngest and smallest, so it was a difficult period at the time because I was always the smallest kid on the block, but I was very competitive. So, and we used to live in an area called Manningham, and you just look out the window and everyone's playing footballs on the streets and stuff, so it was hard to not get involved in that. So that was kind of my start, really, in getting involved in football, really, just playing with the older kids on the streets, really, and that's kind of how it all started.
So when was that moment, Clayton, when you realised you were kind of good at football and you had the opportunity to maybe go into the elite settings in terms of academy football? Can you reflect on that time and how you cope with that from being maybe a street footballer, playing with your brothers, to obviously trying to make this as a career?
Yeah, well, like I say, when I was playing street football with my friends, and I was playing with kids that were 2-3 years, maybe some 4 years older, and they were really good players, and it was a point where I got invited to a tournament, a 5-a-side tournament, and I think I was maybe 8 or 9 at the time, and there was some kids that was 12, 13 years old, and I was keeping my own, and I ended up finishing top goal scorer, and I was the youngest kid there, so that kind of made me realise actually there's something in this for me, and all my friends and my brother was like, actually, you know what, you could be going somewhere with this if you keep this up. So that was probably the first moment when I realised, actually, and I think previous to that I was 6-7 years old, just playing in the streets, is developing that mental strength and that resilience, and playing with the older kids kind of helped me in that sense, massively helped me grow ability wise, and you don't really see it too much nowadays with the kids nowadays. Don't really play on the streets and stuff, and it's all computer games and football training, grassroots training, but you don't really see that hardcore players in the streets playing football and playing foul football and all this kind of stuff, and just developing that resilience and that inner strength, really, and you don't really see it too tough. So from then on, really, I was used to always enter all the tournaments with him and all, and I was always doing really well, scoring loads of goals, and I just kind of kept that up with it, and I kind of stuck with it. I didn't really, I did get scouted a few times to join Bradford boys, other grassroots teams, but my dad was very reluctant to let me do all that kind of stuff, really. He was the one that kind of realised, actually, this kid's got something in here, and he used to do some one-to-one coaching with me after school 2, 3, 4 times a week, really. I used to just do it that way, really. And he used to just coach me after school for about an hour, rather than me going to some grassroots team and training and not really developing my individual stuff, really. So I think that was definitely massive in my learning in my football as well, and doing all that stuff as well. So I didn't really go into grassroots football until I was maybe about 12, 13. So all I used to do was play football in the streets, play for my school, and then did my one-to-one coaching with my dad, really, until about 12, 13. And it's got to a point where he had to let me go on and try and flourish and make a career from it, really. And I signed for I think it was Sandy Lane in Bradford. I was 12 years old. I was playing for the year above. And it kind of started from there, really. And that's when I got scouted by Bradford City, played for the under-14s, under-15s, and then ended up going to Hull City when I was 16. So it kind of, I was a late developer, but at the same time I was still developing, because I was doing my one-to-one coaching with my dad 2-3 times a week, which is vital, because I was focusing on my actual craft rather than going training with grassroots team. And it's just a mayhem. It used to be mayhem, and my dad would say you're not going to learn too much out of it, really, at a young age. You just want to develop your individual skills and stuff before you go into that kind of setting. And I think it was right, totally right.
I suppose it's a blessing in disguise in some sense when you kind of reflect on that period. I want to kind of bring you to obviously your professional career then. So you mentioned playing your debut at Hull and obviously training and kind of the coaches that you're associated during that period. And then you had loan spells at, York City, and then you had a spell in Scotland with Hibernian. How did you cope with maybe the transitions from kind of being in a place where in terms of Yorkshire and that surrounding area to obviously going away? I know obviously York's in Yorkshire, but obviously going away and kind of learning your craft away from maybe your comfort of your surrounding area?
I think the biggest thing for me was leaving Bradford. I think looking back now, it was probably the best thing for me. I think if I would have stayed in Bradford and be surrounded by my friends, at the time, I'm 14, 15, people are starting to go out, starting to drink and smoke and get into all sorts and girls and all that kind of stuff, really. And I feel like if I'd have stayed, I probably might have got caught up in that, or it would have been tugging at me. I think the fact that I had to leave and live with a whole new family in Hull over an hour away, I think that was the best thing for me. So I was able just to train, go back to my room, watch football, watch games, talk to my parents, and just fully focus on football. And that kind of made me focus a lot more. I see a lot of players now that I've got a lot of friends that was signed for the hometown clubs and just fell off because obviously they got caught up in the in that life with the friendships and stuff, because you still want to hang around with your friends. Your friends still want you to hang around with them, and you want you to go out and do this and go here, go there. You're the star boy, so they want you to just kind of show you off, where I kind of went away from all that, took myself out of that situation. And I think that was the best thing for me, to be honest. So it was definitely a blessing in disguise. So, when I did go out on loan, I was at Hull, went out on loan to Harrogate. Like I say, I went to York, I went to Hibernian. I was able to, because I had that 2-3 years of being away from home already from the age of 15, that kind of made it a lot easier for me to, it wasn't new, it wasn't something out of the ordinary. So I was able to stuff, okay, yeah, we're going to Scotland, fine, yeah, no problem, drive up, settle down, get a place, train, and it didn't faze me whatsoever. So it was definitely a blessing in disguise in that sense.
Just a quick one to let you know that over 90% of those that watch this channel do not subscribe. So if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button down below. The bigger the channel, the bigger the guests, and more importantly, it's absolutely free. Enjoy the episode. How did those loan spells maybe develop you as a striker? Obviously, you had a bit of a move at Crewe as well. How do you think that developed you in terms of playing in those leagues, playing against different types of opposition? Obviously, more extrinsic rewards now because you've got to win points. You've got to please fans. You've got all these external pressures as well. And obviously, for your sake, you want to build a career. You want to get a good salary. You want to have those opportunities to play at the best the best leagues and the best clubs that you can play for. How did that develop you? What was that like for your development as a striker?
I think the first thing for me was, again, it goes back to being resilient and training with older players. I was 17 when I scored my debut goal for Hull City for the first team. I was 17 years old. Got brought on as a sub against Port Vale. And I remember my manager, Billy Russell, at the time, was saying, "I'm going to tell you this, but I know you're not going to be bothered about it. But just do you, be you. Don't be fazed by anything. But I know what you are, what you like anyway. And so I don't really need to tell you this, but I need to tell you this at the same time." So I was like, yeah, no problem. He said, "You're coming on." I was at 65 minutes. You're coming on with 2-0 down. I remember getting the ball and Megan, someone got my first touch was Meg. Someone ran onto it, and that was my first touch. So I was never fazed whatsoever. Like I say, it was something that was built in me. And I remember just getting the ball, and I remember scoring. 5 minutes later, my first team full Hull City debut at 17 years old. So I was always that kid that was just never fazed about anything, playing with the older kids. And then they sent me out on loan to Harrogate Town and a few other teams just to try and toughen me up and play with the older kids, really. And at the same time, I was always ready for it anyway. All that kind of stuff. And I always say to players nowadays, don't be fazed by going out on loan and trying to develop that other side of that toughness, dropping down the leagues. And we had a player at Farsley last year that dropped down from the Championship to Conference North, and it was an eye-opener for him. And I said, this will be the best thing for you. Even though that player struggled, he's actually been there, done it and witnessed it. And to be fair, he went back to his club and was playing week in, week out afterwards, and it definitely helped him. So I encourage kids to drop down and play in the lower leagues and go out on loan and just get that valuable experience. And you'll definitely look back in a few years' time and say, wow, yeah, that definitely helped me. So you get a lot of players that are reluctant to do all that stuff now. So it definitely helped me massively, dropping down and going out on loan. And like I say, I went to Hibernian, I went to Crewe. I was never shy of going around the long way and building my career that way, where a lot of players want to take shortcuts and want to stay at the highest levels as possible. Not playing, being on the bench, being a pit-pat player, but they've got that title of being a championship player or a premiership player, but you're not really playing any games, so you're not really developing. So I always say, don't be scared of. There's no shortcuts in football. First and foremost, you need to be somewhere where you're playing and developing, and everything will shine through, and you'll get to your destiny eventually.
You mentioned that you weren't fazed by playing, and you mentioned your debut, you're not making someone, and that kind of no fear. Did that ever change during your career, Clayton, in terms of maybe you being more mature or maybe being a bit more emotionally intelligent during certain games? Or you might be having spells where, injured and maybe a lack of confidence coming back to get into full fitness. Did your mindset ever change in that sense? Just interested on kind of your adaptability during your career as a player? No, never changed. I've always been, like I say, it's something that was built in me from a young age. Playing with the older kids, I've seen a lot of things, had to grow up, at a young age. I changed my first nappy when I was 10 years old. I wasn't allowed to play out, and I wasn't allowed to play out until everything was clean, everything was hoovered. So all that kind of stuff was built in me from a young age. So I had to develop that mental strength, that mental mindset of don't be scared to fail. And I always say this to kids it's good to be nervous, but don't be scared to fail, because failure is always part of you learning and growing. You don't grow unless you learn from your failures. So I always relish, you can't be too high, you can't be too low. At the same time, like I say, when I first went on to made my debut and I make that player, again, it just shows that there's no phase in me whatsoever. If I felt that was on to do that, and I did it. If I didn't do it and it didn't come off, I wouldn't have felt any other way, because I felt that was the right decision at the time. So you just got to go where you are, and I've always developed that in my game. And I was always a penalty taker. There was some penalties that I missed. I'd be like, yeah, give me the ball again, and I'll take the next penalty. It's always
enough in football. There's always going to be parts of it where you are not going to achieve what you want to achieve, and you're going to fail at certain things, but you can't let that stop you and phase you, because it's all part of football. It's all part of life. You're gonna fail now and again. So it's just having that strong mindset and mentality to say to yourself, okay, yeah, if I miss this penalty, it's not the end of the world. Give me the next one. I'm going to try and be confident and take the next one. So it's easier said than done. And like I say, when you're in an environment of playing in front of crowds and stuff, and you got that last penalty at the last minute, and it's a case of winning a game and getting 3 points and making the fans happy, or you missed a penalty and everyone's against you. It's a pressure environment, but at the same time, we're all human beings, and you just got to realise, you can't please everyone. It's not always going to go your way, but as long as you know that and you can get back onto the saddle and try again, I think that's the biggest thing, really.
Did you feel maybe the fact that you mentioned kind of your discipline upbringing in terms of getting stuff done maybe transpired and transferred into your footballing career, and that gave you that inner confidence to believe that you've done the hard work and you can perform at the elite level?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's disappointing to see nowadays with the youngsters nowadays. Don't have that disciplinary side to it, where we had to clean boots and stuff like that, really. When I was young, and nowadays if you ask younger players to clean boots, you get reported. So it's a totally different way of upbringing with the players now, and I think it's that side of it's gone out of it. I think it's gone a bit too soft in my liking, and I think it's good, like you say, it develops you. It gives you that survival instinct. You got responsibilities, and not many younger players have responsibilities, and I think when I was a YT, we had to clean boots. We had to make sure the boots were clean. We had to make sure the boots were in the skip. We had to make sure that all the changing rooms were swept up after the games, before the game. So you develop that side of it, that responsibility side of it, really, where now everything's given to them. So, I remember hearing a story about a well-known player, recently, really, actually, couldn't work his thermostat in his apartment, so he had to ring up the estate agent that was looking after his apartment to download the app and do it for him. And I was thinking, really? Is this what it's come to nowadays? They can't even turn on work their own thermostat and the heater. And so I think it's that side of it develops you, and a lot of players nowadays are lacking that, because of football. Football is all about responsibilities. It's all about taking charge. Your manager says you got to play a certain way, and I want you to do this. I want you. If you don't have that built in you, you're not going to listen to him, and you're gonna do your own thing, because you're not really brought up or built up in that kind of environment. So I think it was important for me to go through what I went through, and it kind of made me stronger in the long run, 100% stronger in the long run, more resilient, and my mindset is totally different. My mindset is. Nothing's going to stop me. Nothing's going to faze me. And I think you need that in football, because, like I say, it's a tough sport. A lot of money's involved, a lot of emotions, where there's going to be lots of ups and downs. But if you don't have that mental strength to get you through that, then you are going to struggle eventually. And I've seen it. I've seen it along the way. So, yeah, it's. I would like to see more. Younger players take more responsibility, have more responsibility on their shoulders, really, because it definitely helps you in the long run. But yeah, I think a lot of stuff are given to kids so way too easy nowadays, which again I don't like seeing. I'm an old school kind of guy, and it's kind of, I'm still playing at 40 years old. I'm still playing, top goal scorer in the Northern Premier League. 39 years old, competing with all the other youngsters, and finished top goal scorer. I was at York 2 years ago, got promoted to the National League, and I was top goal scorer for York at 38. So proof is in the pudding. Proof is in the pudding, and I'm still, like I said, I've just been for a run before this chat. So I've got something built in me that won't leave, and it's like I say, I'm still going now, so it's obviously done me well. So and I know it will do a lot of other players well as well if they had that same kind of mindset as well.
How did you find your transition to Brentford then? So you mentioned obviously playing for these clubs in kind of in the north, and then all of a sudden big transition going down to London. And you mentioned, distractions and making sure that you stay disciplined and focused. Obviously going to London is kind of a different ball game to anywhere in the UK. How did you cope with that? And obviously fitting into a playing style which was very successful at Brentford. Talk to me about that and how you coped with that transition and your time there.
Yeah, so I went to, it was my last season at Crewe Alexandria. My contract was up, and I finished top goal scorer in League Two with 29 goals. So I had a really good season. So I kind of knew there was a move on the horizon. I could have went to Swansea. Swansea came in, and they was in the Championship at the time. But I remember looking at the map and see where Swansea was, and I was like, oh, wow, that's quite far. That's a difficult place to go to. But at the same time, it was a really good team at the time. But I just didn't feel like I was. Yes, there was interested, and we had a few chats and stuff, but they didn't really sell it to me. I just didn't feel like I was going to be their main striker. The chat that we had was kind of, we got this striker here, but we feel like you can maybe push him and maybe get in eventually. And I thought kind of made me feel like I wasn't going there as number one. I was going there as maybe number two, trying to be number one. So I've been playing for Crewe, finished top goal scorer, and I wanted to carry that on. Really, I thought I didn't really want this to go somewhere. Yes, it's a big league. A lot of players again would have jumped at it. Championship, great move, but on the bench and being a big part player, again, you're disrupting your career in that sense. Really, I wanted to be going somewhere, being number 9, being the main man, and carrying on from where I finished. Really, so decided to go to Brentford in League One, and it was the best decision ever, really, for me. I think. I spoke to Uwe Rosler, Matthew Benham, the owner at the time. He's still the owner now. Got invited down recently as a club legend, which was, again, an honour, really. So it just shows the hard work that I put in when I went there. So, no, I went down, met Uwe Rosler, liked everything he said. I'm going to be the number 9, the main man. Hopefully be the player to get him promoted to the Championship. So, I jumped at it, signed for them, moved down. Put us up in some hotel for the first few months until I found my feet and stuff, and then managed to get a place down there. But never really been to London like that, so that was a big eye opener. The big smoke. A lot of things going on in London, here, there, and everywhere. You're getting invited to this thing. There was something on every day, and that was difficult to cope with at the time. You need to be here, you need to be there, and getting tubes, and it was just chaos, absolute chaos. So, after a while, after I did get settled down and got into the swing of things down there, like I say, my football kind of flourished after that. But it was a little difficult at the time getting used to the speed of things and how busy it was, and it's non-stop, absolutely non-stop. So it took me a while to get used to that. I was used to being in Crewe, Nantwich, where nothing really happens, really. So I was more focused on the football, where London was a whole totally different kettle of fish. But again, enjoy my time down there.
Did you notice that kind of vision and blueprint? You mentioned the owner, and obviously when you moved there, they got promoted to the Championship. And obviously there's a model at Brentford that is quite unique in terms of recruitment and kind of selling players on and kind of attracting the right players to kind of bring in this systematic model. Did you feel that when you sold the club? You mentioned in comparison to maybe Swansea and other clubs, did you feel that this was a club going to progress?
100%. To be fair, I should have mentioned that before. I was the first player to be in that model. That was the first year they actually did that model. Matthew Benham was well known for his betting companies and his stats and all that stuff, and that's how we did all this recruitment. And I was one of the first players in that model, and he showed me all the stats. I was number 1. And it was weird because we was doing the negotiations, and he was saying, look, this is the model we go off. We watch all the players. We got all the stats of shot to goal to ratio and how many shots you have goals and how many runs and offside and all these stats on his computer. And I was there number one at the top. I was like, wow. And he was like, yeah, this is the model we're going with now, and we want to be in the Premiership within 5 years with this model. And I remember him saying that to me. And I think they ended up getting to the Premiership in 7 years, I think it was. So he wasn't that far off, and it showed that the model worked. But at the same time, I remember when he was showing me the model and they showed me the contract they offered me, and I was like, okay, well, if I'm number one, I want an extra 0 on the end of it. And so I was like, you showed your hands now, so if I'm number one, I want an extra £500 or whatever it was at the time. And we all laughed about it, and I ended up getting that extra money because of the hand. They showed me the hand, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm number one, so I want this. And to be fair, they was totally fine with it, and I think it was the best decision they made and the best decision I made at the time as well.
Did you feel maybe Brentford knew more about you than you knew about yourself in terms of the stats and statistics? Obviously, in comparison to maybe Crew, you probably haven't got that data to show you, the certain figures, etc., to relate to maybe a contract, etc. Did you feel that during that process?
Yeah, I couldn't believe what I was seeing when it was showing me. It was all new to me. That I don't think many people have seen all that stuff, all that data, especially all that data and stuff on me as well. So that was very surprising, and I was blown away by it. And I think that kind of just sold it for me. I was like, okay, well, if you're signing players based on this, then we're gonna have a squad, and we're gonna really do well and flourish really. So, and I think that was kind of the selling point to me really. I think once he showed me that and showed me what he was doing and how he's been successful doing it. So I was blown away by it. And I think that kind of sold it to me, to be honest. And like I say, now they're in the Premiership, flourishing, and like I say, I think they're one of the only clubs that have made profit from the players that they sign. They've always signed players on low budgets, low wages, but because of the stats that they have and the information they have on all these players, you can see they make the right decision, and then they end up selling them for a massive amount of profit. So, and I think Brighton was the second team that kind of started it as well recently, and we can see how they've done well as well. So, yeah, it's a definitely good model, but you'd obviously need all that technology and all that staffing and knowledge to start all that, and he's obviously had a head start.
I don't know if you've seen the film Moneyball, Clayton, but I think it's
exactly of that. Yeah.
How did it come to an end then at Brentford? Obviously moving to Birmingham, how did that come to an end for you?
Yeah, so I was there 3 years, and the thing for me was to try and get Brentford promoted to the Championship, and we did that in the final year. So, but at the same time, I didn't really want to leave. But contracts kind of took a little stumbling block and halted a little bit, and wasn't really going as much as, wasn't moving as fast as I would have liked, to be honest. And Mark Warburton at the time, yes, they offered me a contract, but it wasn't, as I felt like it was probably worth a bit more, or the timing of it wasn't how I would like it to be, because my contract ran out. I signed 3 years, and 3 years it was up, and it was like, okay, I would have liked this to be done before, so I knew what I was doing, for the next year, but it kind of all got delayed, and the timing, and then obviously Birmingham came in between that time as well. Such a big club, and I didn't have anything solid on the table from Brentford, and Birmingham offered me something, and it was solid, and it was there, and I was like, well, there's no point really messing around, and Birmingham shown the intent. The intent was there, and that's what I like. I like to be felt. I like to feel like I'm wanted, and the intent was there from Birmingham, and that's when I decided, okay, I want to sign for Birmingham. Made a decision to take that jump, and as soon as I signed, I remember Matthew Benhams got in touch with my agent saying, "What's going on here? How come we haven't?" And my agent said, "Well, this, Brentford been taking the time, and Clayton wanted all this stuff sorted a time ago." And Matthew was absolutely fuming. He was absolutely fuming about it, and I think, the people that was dealing with the contracts at Birmingham kind of got telling off, and I don't think they're there anymore. So yeah, if I don't know, it kind of made me feel like I got them promoted to Championship and that's it. They wanted me to move on. It wasn't really showing me, but it wasn't that wasn't the case. It was just them being slow with everything, and they found out later that Matthew wasn't too pleased about it.
Why do you think that was at Brentford? And again, this is kind of a fan looking in, but there's a lot of rumours around during that period around salary caps and stuff like that. Was that kind of something that impacted you in terms of that negotiation, that process of them being slow? And you mentioned this new model, etc. Was that kind of part of the process of how to negotiate as well, rather than being humanistic and kind of talking it through properly? Was that something that was a bit of a challenge there?
No, I don't think the salary cap was an issue, to be honest. It was just taking so long, and I was just wanted it done. And like I said, I've been there 3 years. They know everything about me. All it was just offer me a new contract, have it there, and we'll be signing. It'll be done. But that wasn't the case. It was just I'm ringing my agent. Has anything come through yet? No, nothing's come through. Just offered this, and this has come through, and everything's all there. What your demands are there. It's all been met. So I was like, okay. How long do I wait for Brentford? And he was just saying, well, it's not come through, and days was passing by, so it's got to the point where I was like, okay, well, they're not obviously showing that intent and don't really feel wanted as a player. You want to be feeling wanted and stuff like that. So, I think it was a bit of miscommunication on Brentford's part, but at the same time, people that was dealing with it at the time obviously maybe had other things they was trying to lock off at the same time, and maybe if that was explained to me and my agent at the time, maybe we would have waited or been more patient, but nothing was really being said. So we kind of, but at the same time, I got Birmingham there already, a big club, massive club at the time, still big club now. Do you know what I mean? And the fans, the stadium, and second city. Yeah, it was a point where actually, you know what, I want to try some of this as well. I want to test myself at this level at such a big club. At Birmingham City, so it was okay. Yeah, I want to make that jump, make that leap. And if even if Brentford probably would have came in that last minute and matched whatever Birmingham matched, I probably would have still chose Birmingham. I think I'm always one to challenge myself, and I think I had 3 good years at Brentford. We got promoted to the Championship. I thought it was the right time to leave. I thought, yeah, okay, let's do it.
Moving to Birmingham, there's a bit of turbulent time off the pitch, and I feel like when you joined, there was a bit of stability, and obviously Rowett was there, and a few other good strikers at that period, Che Adams, Jukovic. How did you cope maybe going into that environment and kind of settling down? And obviously during that period, you won Players Player of the Year, and an array of different awards during your time at Birmingham. How did you cope with that, and how did you enjoy football more? Was it different to Brentford? I'm just interested on the contrast there.
Yeah, it was a bigger move for me. Bigger move, big stadium, fan base was huge. Expectations obviously was there as well. Being an ex-Premier League club, so you had all that to deal with at the same time. But I think when I first went there, it was a difficult period. I don't think they won at home for like 11, 12 months. I think it was under Lee Clark at the time, which I was really surprised about. So again, that gave me that fire and that determination to say, okay, I can come in, I can change that, I can help change that. It was a tough time. I think we won all our pre-season games at the time, and then I think we lost 4 or 5 games on the bounce in the league. So it wasn't the greatest of starts, to be honest. And I'm looking at thinking, have I made the right decision? It's not gone well. It's not started well. The fans have started to turn a little bit. What we're going to do, have I made the right decision? But at the same time, I thought, you know what, I just need to do the best I can do. And that's how I looked at it, to be honest. And I think when Rowett came in, it kind of rejuvenised everything and settled everyone down. We was slipping down in the league and wasn't really having the best of times. And I think the change was the right decision, and it came at the right time. And when Rowett came in, he kind of rejuvenised everything and settles everyone down. And we won that first game at home against Watford, and then we kind of kicked on from there really. So it was kind of a mixed start for my Birmingham career, where we didn't do so well. Manager got sacked. The manager that signed me got sacked. So you're thinking, a new manager comes in, is he going to like me? Am I going to still be the main striker there? And I think one of the first things he came in and he spoke to all the players and he kind of settled my self down by saying, look, you know, I know everything about you. You are going to be my number 9, so I don't want you to think I'm coming in and I'm going to bring someone else in. You are going to lead the line, and that kind of settled me down massively, because you don't know what to expect with a new manager, and I think that was a good thing for him to do, to come in and say that to me and kind of settle me down. And like I say, I kind of repaid that faith with some of the performances really. So we got on really well, and like I say, we won that first game against Watford at home at St Andrews. Place was electric, and from then on we just kicked on. We just kicked on from there, and we just flourished, really flourished.
You mentioned obviously Lee Clark signed you, and then you mentioned, well, your words were then that Rowett kind of settled things down and kind of made things a little bit probably more simple for you in terms of how to play, etc. What was the difference there between maybe Clark and Rowett in terms of playing styles, etc.? Can you reflect on maybe the contrast there when Rowett came in to try and revitalise the team again? Is there anything that stands out on that time?
I think Rowett was really good. He was a good man manager, where Lee Clark was more, didn't really get involved in training. Assistants and coaches, other coaches would do all the training. Didn't really speak to the players on a one-to-one level really. Whereas Rowett came in straight away, sat us down individually and told us what he wanted, how he wanted us to play. For me personally, he said, you're going to be my number 9. I want you to lead the line. We're going to play this way. We're going to try and play this way. These are the things I want you to do. I know it's going to be difficult, but just do your best. And I think that was great. When he did that. I think you need that as a player. As a player, lots of things goes around in your head. When stuff like that happens, a new manager comes in, are you going to be favoured? Are you going to be pushed out of the team? Are you going to be brought into the team? So it's important for managers to sit down with players and tell them exactly where they stand. And that was big. That was big for me, and I think you could see in my performances when I did play for Birmingham under Rowett. That definitely helped me perform to the best of my ability, because I had that backing from my manager, which again every player would want. If you get that backing from your manager on a one-to-one level, then you're going to run through big walls for him, and that's exactly what I did. And I think that was a difference really between him and Clarkey.
But you said to see him go, obviously, during that period. Redknapp came in, I think Cottrell came in as well, and Zola, I think, was there during that period. But you said to see Rowett go, and obviously the kind of the turmoil that happened, it was kind of out of the blue. What was that like for you as a player? Obviously, you mentioned that element of knowing your place in the team. I can imagine that brings a little bit of anxiety and worry about your future there at the club. What was that like for you?
Yeah, that was a difficult period. That was really difficult when Rowett left. A big shock to the system. I think everyone was shocked. Everyone was shocked at the time. Didn't see it coming. I think we was in the playoffs at the time. I think it was so many points off second. Really doing well. So when we realised and heard that he got the sack, everyone was just in shock. And yeah, we said this is going to be the wrong move. Really, we shouldn't be disrupting anything. Really, we're going in the right direction. For me personally, I got injured at the Ipswich game. I think the Ipswich game was his last game. I think I remember I scored a penalty. We won 1-0. And I did my Achilles. Partially tore my Achilles. So that was my last game and Rowett's last game. So when we got the news, I was actually injured anyway. So I was out for nearly 4 months, I think it was. So that's when Zola came in. So I was kind of watching on the sidelines. I couldn't really be involved or get involved because I was injured, and the training sessions were 3 or 4 hours long. It was just like a rabbit in a headlight for them. I felt so sorry for them. They got this everything they did. It was just wrong. They kept getting everything wrong. Trainings were too long at a time. Players were getting injured. No days off. again, when you come into a new environment like that, you can't just switch everything over. You got to do it gradually, because you can do that if you start the season pre-season. You can, implement your own little styles and ways, but to do that halfway through the season, obviously with the results, it just doesn't work. You kind of got to go with what's been happening before, but gradually put your own little elements and stuff in. Where he changed absolutely everything overnight, and it was a big shock to the system, to the players, to the club, to the staff. So yeah, he got it totally wrong. But at the same time, I was on the sidelines looking, and I'm thinking, I was actually quite pleased that I was on the sideline, because I was like, there's no way I could cope with all this training and stuff, and just the things he would do and say in the training sessions, and he just got it all totally wrong. And like I say, it showed in the results, and he did end up lasting that long, unfortunately. Even though he did well at Watford, and as a player, what a player, one of the greatest Premier League players to come about as well. It was just a shame, really. It didn't work. And yeah, big name. I think the club at the time wanted a big name to come in to try and rejuvenate the place, the Birmingham. But it's just, yeah, it doesn't work like that, as we've seen in recent times as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of similarities. There's obviously John Eustace, and obviously that's backfired even worse now with Birmingham being in League One. Just on that then, Clayton. So kind of during that period, after Zola, there was Redknapp, and there was a period during the window where Birmingham was signing an array of different players. In fact, and again, from my personal point of view, probably too many players in terms of bringing players into the club. How did you cope with that during that process, where you see a lot of players coming in on big contracts, the likes of the three lads from Brentford, for example, and other players linked with Birmingham City? How do you cope with that in terms of knowing your place and thinking, hang on a minute, is there a place for me here in terms of the team? Or did you think about it of better competition? I'm just interested on what your thought process was during that period of players coming in, but also that instability of managers as well.
Yeah, so that was another difficult period for me. Being injured for 4 months, not really being able to help the team, and all these, Zola's come in, Redknapp's come in. So then, we get to a window, and all these other players have come in, big money, big contracts, and you're looking around thinking, is this a time for me to say goodbye? Am I going to be the manager's number one? Like I said to you before, so I got back fit just towards the end of the season. I think I came on the last game of that season away at Bristol. I think it was, we needed a point. I think Winchester, and we stayed. I think Shea Adams scored. But I go back to that period of when Rowett came in and sat us all down individually and said, "Look, you're going to be my plans. You're not going to be a plan." I didn't really have that with Redknapp at the start of the season. He didn't really speak to the players, to be honest, and I don't feel like he was there to. I think he was just there just to be there, kind of thing. He wasn't. He didn't really get involved as much. And again, there was a few signings that he made that he didn't really know too much about, to be honest. So I kind of got a wind of that, and I was thinking, this is going to be a big, massive circus, really. And it just got to the point where I was like, I need to be focusing on me now, focusing on playing. I didn't feel like the opportunity was going to come because all these players were coming in. The manager didn't really know too much about some of the players, so I was thinking, who's controlling all this stuff? So that was I think that was a point where I was like, time for me to move on. Sadly, even though I didn't want to leave, but it just felt like I was forced to with what was going on.
Just reflecting on your career as a whole, we'll kind of come towards the conclusional element of this podcast. But who was maybe the toughest defender you've ever played against? Can you reflect on maybe someone that you were thinking, wow, like I thought I was good, but they've actually really challenged me in terms of my ability? Do you relate to anyone when you think about that?
Yeah. I think when I was at Brentford, we played Chelsea in the FA Cup, and I think I played against John Terry. He could read the game so well. read the game so well. He was. I remember coming off that pitch thinking, "Wow, I understand why he's at that top level. Why he's playing for England. Why he's playing for the Chelsea in the Premiership." He could read the game so well. Any move I was making, he knew what I was doing, and I just found it difficult. But at the same time, it made me feel like, actually, you know what, I've got a lot more to learn here. I need to go back to the drawing board and focus on my craft even more. If I want to try and to get that to that level, that's the levels where you need to be and where I need to be at. So I think playing against John Terry definitely opened my eyes when I was at Brentford, and I think from then on, that was it. I was doing extras in training, making sure I was focusing on my individualness, my strikers, my movements, getting stronger. Did a lot of core work as well. So he was just all round player, was just unmatched and unplayable at times. So it made my life like living hell. And I remember coming off thinking, I don't want to feel like that again. And that's when I went back to the drawing board and started doing extra stuff and watching more videos of strikers' movements, Henry's, R9's, Cristiano Ronaldo's. You know, I would always watch videos and trying to improve. But that was a big wake-up call for me. Yeah, definitely. I think John Terry. And I think, he's had a really good career, and you can see why. And you don't really see it until you actually be there and physically see it for yourself and actually being on the same pitch and you're actually playing up against him. You understand. He wasn't the quickest, because he was so smart. He could read the game. His intelligence got him out of difficult situations.
So last question then, Clayton, as we kind of wrap up the podcast. I always ask my guests, what is the future for yourself and for the individual I interview? Obviously, you mentioned during the podcast, you're still playing, you're still doing a bit of coaching. What does the future hold for Clayton Donaldson? Is there anything that you've got in mind going forward?
Future for me, well, I'm head coach at Farsley Celtic. I was player manager last year. Player manager again this year again. Pre-season starts next Saturday on 29th of June. So preparing for that. Now trying to transition into managing. I think that's definitely something in my DNA as well. That's something I want to get into. First year last year was a big learning curve for me in terms of what you got to deal with on and off the pitch. As a player, you're just focusing on yourself, individual self. You're selfish, you're kind of selfish at the same time. Where now I'm managing a lot more players, the club, the surroundings, stuff on the field, stuff off the field. So it was a massive eye opener in that sense, and I learned a lot, and I came out from that feeling like, I definitely want more of this. You can either go one way or the other. Whereas now I feel like, I definitely feel like I'm built for managing and leading. So I think that's future for me is, hopefully managing the league at some point. I think starting off Conference National North at Farsley Celtic, I think it's a good start for me to learn my craft really in that sense, and build up relationship with players. Managing players is one of the hardest things to do because there's so many egos flying about and everyone wants to be playing, so I'm dealing with that side of it. But at the same time, I feel like I've been managed by so many good managers where I've took lots of stuff from what I've learned from them into my stuff as well, and which has definitely helped me in so many ways. So I always did that. I always took note of players, of managers, how they would manage the training session, what was good, what was bad. I always made notes of it. So and you always knew one day it would come to the point where I was managing and taking sessions, and what made players tick, what players came in and said that was shambles, waste of a car journey. So I always made sure I took note of all that kind of stuff really, and trying to implement that in my coaching style now. Like I say, it's one I flourish for. I've been in professional football for so many years. So I feel like it's the next step. There's no point doing anything else. It's the next step. It's football's in my DNA. So I feel like I want to try and to help the younger generation now become better players, better versions of themselves. And I always use some of that, my upbringing styles and try to implement that with them as well. And I feel like some of it's worked, some of it haven't. You got the new millennials, the Gentiles, or what they call The Gen Zs, I mean, like they're a lot more softer than when I was younger. So you got to be careful with how you approach certain things and how you do certain things. But at the same time, I was trying to make sure they have responsibilities, which again stems from playing. When you cross over that line, that white line, you got a responsibility to be the best version of yourself and trying to help the team and stuff like that. So I think it's vital, and I tried to implement that into my style and into my coaching and into my managing, really. So yeah, that's my new path now I'm looking to take, and hopefully, you never know, could be in the league one day, managing Birmingham City. Who knows? But like I say, I'll never try and cut corners. I'm always the one to go the long way around, because I feel like that's the best way around in football, because there's no shortcuts and you get found out.
Well, I'll hold you to that if you're going to manage Birmingham City one day, Clayton. I'll flip this up and post this in years to come. But I just want to say thank you for having this conversation, Clayton. Obviously, you speak very elegantly. You're very open and honest. You're very passionate about the game as well. And I just want to wish you all the best in your future career in terms of management and leadership and coaching. And once again, thank you and good luck.
Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate the call and the connection. And like I say, when you brought this to light, I was like, yeah, definitely want to do this 100%. So I appreciate that, and hopefully may see you again in the near future. Who knows?